The sky above Velthera Prime shimmered in shades of violet and gold, its twin suns casting long radiant beams across the capital city. Towering crystalline spires pierced the clouds, glowing softly with bioluminescent veins that pulsed like the heartbeat of a living world. Today was not an ordinary day. Today was the ceremony of choosing. For the Veltheri species, this ritual was sacred. Once every cycle, the most eligible females of the empire would stand before the gathered males, warriors, scholars, nobles, and be chosen as bondmates. It was not just about companionship. It was about lineage, power, alliances, and the future of their civilization. And among those standing at the center platform was her. Her name was Kaylis. She stood tall, her posture perfect, her presence undeniably commanding. Her silver-blue skin shimmered faintly under the twin suns, and her eyes, bright, piercing violet, held a depth that most would find intimidating. Too intimidating. Because one by one, they turned her down. The first male approached, a decorated warlord with armor etched in victory marks. He circled her slowly, examining every detail. "She is formidable," he admitted. Then he stepped back. "But not suitable." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The second male, a scholar of high rank, barely met her gaze before shaking his head. "Her energy signature is unstable," he said. "Rejected." The third, a noble with influence across multiple systems, smiled politely, but declined without explanation. And so it continued, one after another. Excuses varied, too strong, too unpredictable, too dangerous, too different. But the meaning was always the same. No one wanted her. Kaylee stood still through it all, unmoving, unflinching. But inside, something was breaking. Because she knew the truth. Her power was not just greater than most, it was uncontrollable. Or at least, that's what they believed. The weight of being different. By the time the 10th rejection came, the whispers had turned into open discussion. She's too powerful. She could destabilize a bond. No one could control her. Control. That word echoed in Kaylee's mind. She didn't want to be controlled. She wanted to be understood. But in Veltheri society, strength in a female was admired, only to a point. Beyond that point, it became a threat. And Kaylee's had crossed that point long ago. Her energy, raw, volatile, immense, had manifested during her early years. Entire training grounds had been destroyed by accident. Instructors had refused to continue her lessons. Even her own family had begun to keep their distance. Not out of hatred, out of fear. And now, in front of the entire empire, that fear had become rejection. The platform felt colder beneath her feet. Heavier. The final Veltheri male stepped forward. He didn't even bother to circle her. "I decline," he said immediately. No explanation. No hesitation. Just rejection. Silence followed. Absolute. Kaylee's lowered her gaze for the first time. The ceremony was over. And she had not been chosen. The unexpected presence. Is that all of them? The voice didn't belong. It wasn't Veltheri. It wasn't familiar. But it carried across the platform with a clarity that made everyone turn. Standing at the edge of the ceremonial grounds was a human. A single human. Dressed in simple, functional attire, not ceremonial, not armored, not impressive by Veltheri standards. Just present. The guards reacted instantly, stepping forward, but the high speaker raised a hand. "Stand down," the speaker said. "Let him speak." The human stepped forward, calm despite the overwhelming attention. "My name is Elias Ward," he said. "Representative of the Human Coalition." The crowd murmured. Humans were known. Resilient. Adaptable. But rarely involved in Veltheri traditions. "You are not part of this ceremony," the high speaker stated. Elias nodded. "I know." "Then why are you here?" Elias glanced at Kaylee's, then back at the speaker. "Because it's not finished." The entire platform froze. The step that changed everything. "You misunderstand," the speaker said. "All Veltheri candidates have made their choice." Elias tilted his head slightly. "I'm not Veltheri." That simple statement caused a ripple through the crowd. "You cannot participate," one of the nobles snapped. Why not? Elias asked calmly. This is our tradition. And your tradition just rejected her, he replied. Silence. Uncomfortable. Heavy. Elias stepped onto the platform. Each step deliberate. Each movement drawing more attention. Kaylee's looked up. For the first time since the rejections began. Their eyes met. She expected pity. Or curiosity. Or fear. But she saw none of those things. Only clarity. You don't even know what she is, someone in the crowd shouted. Elias didn't look away from Kaylee's. I know enough. And what is that? The high speaker asked carefully. Elias answered without hesitation. That she hasn't been seen. The words struck deeper than any insult. Because they were true. The choice no one expected. Elias stopped in front of Kaylee's. Close enough that he could feel the faint hum of her energy. Unstable. Powerful. Alive. You don't have to do this, Kaylee said quietly. You don't understand what you're stepping into. Elias smiled slightly. You're right, he said. Pause. Then. But I understand what it means to stand alone. That broke something in her. Not in weakness. In recognition. The high speaker stepped forward. Human, he warned, this is not a decision to be taken lightly. Her power. I know, Elias interrupted gently. He extended his hand. Not as a command. Not as control. As a choice. I step forward, he said, his voice carrying across the entire city. The words echoed. Because no one else had said them. Not for her. Not ever. Kaylee stared at his hand. At the impossible moment unfolding before her. You'll regret this, she whispered. Elias shook his head. No, he said softly. I won't. The bond no one understood. The aftermath was chaos. Velthari law had no clear answer for what had just happened. A non-Velthari male stepping forward? Choosing a female rejected by all others? It was unprecedented. Controversial. Dangerous. But the bond had been accepted. Not because of tradition. But because Kaylee's had made a choice of her own. She had taken his hand. Life after the ceremony. Their union was not celebrated. It was watched. Observed. Questioned. Elias was placed under constant scrutiny, his every movement analyzed by Velthari officials. Kaylee's, meanwhile, faced even greater pressure. If he fails to stabilize her, one council member warned, the consequences could be catastrophic. Because that was the assumption. That Elias would control her. Contain her. Manage her power. But they were wrong. Completely. Because Elias never tried to control her. Instead he listened. He learned. He adapted. And slowly, Kaylee's began to change. Not by becoming weaker. But by becoming calmer. Her power, once chaotic, began to respond, not to force but to trust. The crisis that proved everything. It happened during the third cycle. A catastrophic energy storm erupted in the upper atmosphere of Velthara Prime. It threatened to collapse the planetary shields, which would expose the entire world to lethal cosmic radiation. Velthari scientists couldn't stop it. Their systems weren't designed for something so unstable. But Kaylee's was. Her energy matched it. The council hesitated. She's too unpredictable. It's too risky. She could make it worse. Elias stepped forward. Or she could save all of you. They turned to him. And you trust her? The speaker asked. Elias didn't hesitate. With everything. The ending, the moment they finally understood. Kaylee stood at the edge of the planetary shield platform, the storm raging above her like a living entity. For a moment, she was afraid. Not of the storm. But of failing. Of proving them right. That she was too much. Too dangerous. Too unstable. Then she felt it. A hand. Warm. Steady. Elias. You don't have to be what they think, he said quietly. She looked at him. What if I am? She asked. He shook his head. Then let them be wrong. That was all she needed. She stepped forward. Into the storm. Energy surged around her, wild and violent, but this time, she didn't fight it. She understood it. Guided it. For the first time in her life, her power wasn't something to suppress. It was something to use. The storm began to stabilize, slowly, then rapidly, until silence. The sky cleared. The danger was gone. And below, an entire planet watched, not in fear, but in awe. Final ending, the truth that changed a civilization. When Kaylee's descended back to the platform, the same people who had rejected her stood in silence. The high speaker stepped forward. "You have done what none of us could," he said. Kaylee said nothing, because she didn't need to. Elias stood beside her. Not above, not controlling, just there. "You chose differently," the speaker continued, looking at Elias. Elias shook his head. "No," he said. "I just stepped forward when no one else would." The speaker turned to Kaylee. "And you?" She looked across the crowd. At the males who had rejected her. At the society that had feared her. Then back at Elias. "I was never the problem," she said. The words echoed across Velthera Prime. And this time, no one argued. Final line. They had rejected her because they feared her strength. But it took a human to show them that strength was never something to fear, only something waiting to be understood.